All right, let's jump into our work for today. Okay. So this is what we were looking at on Tuesday. We were looking at how do we take out a highest common factor from an expression. Okay, and remember when we look at our highest common factor, we look at what is the common factor with the numbers. So what would be our common factor with the numbers? And then what would be our common factors with the variables? Okay, I'd love it if you could all give this one a try for me, see how it goes, see if it makes sense. When you have an answer, chuck it in the chat for me. And then I will show you some ways to help you to make it a little bit easier if you're still struggling. But give it a go. So first thing we're looking at are our numbers. So you're looking for your highest common factor with those. And then you're looking at your variables. So you're looking at those. Okay, see how it goes. As soon as you have an answer, put it in the chat for us, and then I'll go through this step by step. And for those of you who have just gotten here, hello, happy Thursday. Welcome to the day just before Friday. Okay, so offense 2 can definitely go into all of those. It can definitely, so it is a common factor, but it's not the highest common factor. There's something higher that can go into them all. Remember, if you need help, write out your little list over here. Okay, so those are our factors of those three numbers. So we've got the factors of 24, the factors of 30, the factors of 30. And we're looking for the one, so we're looking at the first step is to see what are our common ones. So which numbers are common in all of them. Remember, 1 doesn't count, so we never use 1. But we can see that 2 is common in all of them. We can see that 3 is common in all of them. We can see that 6 is common in all of them, and then nothing else is common. And so the one that is the highest common factor is 6. Then think about what we look for with our variables, and then we'll go through this together. I see that we have some answers coming in, which is great. I'm liking the 6s. So for P, we could get something a little bit higher than P. But I like that you could see that A wasn't in everything and B wasn't in everything. That's a really good step. But if you look at your P's, you've got a P squared there, a P cubed there, and a P squared there. So think about what the smallest one is that you could take out. It'll come. Remember, this is as hard as highest common factor questions can go. So don't be too hard on yourselves. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Just be careful with that last term that's coming in there. Your negative 10. And now be careful, there's something missing in your second term, your 6b squared. Okay, let's try go through this. So first things first is with our numbers, we see you did. The first thing we could see was 6 was definitely our number for our highest common factor. Okay, then we looked at our variables. A isn't in everything, so we can't use A. B isn't in everything, so we can't use B. P is in everything. And the smallest p, we've got p squared and we've got p cubed. So the smallest one is p squared because we always take the smallest one. So we're going to take p squared. Okay. Now remember, this is a step that you don't have to write, but it helps if you're struggling while you're learning. So we're going to write the first term. We're going to divide it by our highest common factor. Our second term, and we're going to divide it by our highest common factor, and our third term, and divide it by our highest common factor. Okay, so 24 divided by 6 gives us 4. Those p squareds cancel, and we are left with an a. Then we have a negative. 36 divided by 6 is 6. The p cubed and the p squared is going to leave me with 1p at the top. So I'm going to have b squared p, and I'm going to have a minus sign. 30 divided by 6 gives me 5. Those are going to cancel. So I'm left with AB. So that would be my final answer. Let me know how this question went. 0 to 10. 0, horrible. 10, beautiful. Let me know how this question went.
But y'all welcome. Well done, everybody. Well done. Oh, it was a hard one.
It was a hard one, guys. Cool. It's okay if it went horribly. It takes practice. And this was a really tough question. Okay, cool. Thanks for your answers, guys. All right. Today, we are moving on to the second part of factorization. So the first part was the highest common factor. And remember, if you're new, you always can watch these videos on the website. So don't panic. You can watch our video from Tuesday from the website. And today we're going to have a look at difference of two squares. That is what we're going to focus on today. And I call difference of two squares dots. Okay, it's a nice, quick, easy way to think about what dots means. So just so that you know when I say dots what I'm talking about, we're talking about difference of two squares. The D stands for the difference, so I have to have a minus sign. The T stands for 2, so I need to have 2 terms. And the S stands for squares, so both need to be square numbers. Okay. Oh, yes. There are 3 parts of factorization in grade 9. And then you learn more in grade 10. So this is just, we're just in the beginning. Okay, so this is difference of two squares. So if I was to work this out, this isn't factorizing. This is just expanding these questions over here. This is like if we were looking at FOIL, okay? I would say x times x, which is x squared, x times 2, which is 2x, negative 2 times x, which is negative 2x, and negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4. And then these two, they're like terms, so they're going to cancel each other out because I've got 2x minus 2x, so I'm left with just x squared minus 4. Okay, let's have a look at the one below it. One below it, same idea. X times x, x squared. X times 3, 3x. Negative 3x. Negative 9. These two are going to cancel, and I'm left with x squared minus 9. Who thinks that they can tell me a pattern that they can see with these two questions? Who can see some kind of pattern? Something that you notice is the same with both of them. Tiana, what do you notice?
Both of the terms in the middle are canceling out each other.
Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, that's definitely true. What do you notice though about this and this that are the same?
The plus and the minus.
Okay, yeah, that's a great start. There's a plus and a minus in both. Can someone else tell me something else that they can see that's similar? Tando, can you tell me what you see that's similar?
They both have 2 terms and they are both binomials.
Good, they both have 2 terms. Excellent, that's great. I love it. Can someone tell me something else they see? Jasmine, can you tell me something else you see?
There is a constant.
Yes, there is a constant. What can you see about those constants?
That it's one number on its own.
Yeah, and they're the same as each other, right? So in this top one, it was a 2 on both, and the bottom one, it was a 3 in both. Okay, what can you guys tell me that you see now? So those are great things that you saw. What can you see with this answer compared to this? What do you notice? And you should be able to see a similar thing with this answer compared to that. What's something that you can see? Some Piwe.
Ma'am, the answers are squared.
Good, the answers are squared. Excellent, excellent. Unati, can you tell me something else?
Ma'am, you can square root both answers.
I can, excellent. Okay, so what we land up with here is we landed up with a square here and we landed up with a square here. And do you notice how both of them have a minus sign in the middle? It's a bit suspicious. And so what we're going to learn about today is how do we take this as a question, and if they gave us that and they said factorize, we need to get those 2 brackets. If we're factorizing, we're going backwards. So we need to somehow get from this x squared minus 9, and we need to get to the x minus 3x plus 3. Okay, because we're factorizing, we're going backwards. So these are called difference of 2 squares. So these ones have been factorized for you. Let's start with just these 2 over here. Okay, so if I have x squared minus y and I was asked to factorize it, if I was asked to factorize this question, my answer would be x plus y, x minus y. If I was given 9a squared minus 25 and I was asked to factorize it, my answer would be 3a plus 5, 3a minus 5. Can you tell me some things that you're starting to notice that you could try and figure out how you could write this? How you could figure out some steps that would take us from here to here? What do you see? Tando, what do you see?
The first terms in the brackets are the square root of the first number.
Excellent, good. The first terms in the brackets are the square root of our first term over there. Excellent, awesome. Nkateko, what can you tell me? What do you see?
Well, ma'am, I'm not gonna. Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, I'm not gonna answer the question, but I have a question for you.
Okay.
What, like on the first bracket, why is it positive? Why is it a plus, not a minus?
So there's always going to be 1 plus and there's going to be 1 minus, because when we multiply these out, we had a negative and we had a positive. If they're the same as each other, we're not going to just have 2 terms. We're going to land up having 3 terms. So we have to have 1 of each in our brackets.
Oh.
You could have put your minus first, but we have to have 1 plus and we have to have 1 minus.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Samakilasiwe, can you tell me something?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, yes.
Ma'am, the answer is xy squared or xy4. Am I right?
No, so the answer is here, sweetheart. This is the answer. That is what we're looking for. I'm just trying to ask you, how do we know that that's the answer? What are some of the things to help us see that that would be the answer? So some things that have come up, which is great. Okay, so one thing that we've sort of spoken about is that we saw that we have a plus sign and we have a minus sign. We've got two brackets. I see that came into the chat. That's absolutely right. We've got two brackets. Then we had an answer that our first term in both brackets is the square root of this first term. And another one here is if I square root my second term, I will get this answer over here. So let's see if that pans out. So the square root of 9a squared is 3a. Those are my first two terms. I have a plus, I have a minus. The square root of 25 is 5 and 5. Okay. Now, obviously, this one looks a little bit nastier, but it's the same idea. The square root of 81x to the 4 is 9x squared. So that's going to go into both. We have a plus, we have a minus. The square root of 64y to the 6, we have a to the 3, a to the 3. So if we are given a question like this, this is basically how we'll end up working out. So if we've looked down here, let's write ourselves a little rule. If we have a squared minus b squared, it's going to factorize into, we're going to have two brackets. Okay, so first of all, the most important thing is we need to know which type of factorizing we're going to use, okay? We can see here we don't have a highest common factor. So then we think, can we do dots? So let's just go through what those letters mean again. D stands for difference. Difference. There is a minus sign. Remember, the word difference stands for minus, okay? Next thing, the T stands for 2. So I must have two terms. I've got one term, two terms. Done. The S stands for squares. A squared is a square. B squared is a square. So that means that I'm allowed to do dots. I'm allowed to do difference of two squares. Okay. When we factorize difference of two squares, we have two brackets that open up like this. Always have two brackets. Okay. In the first bracket, we're going to have a plus sign. In the second bracket, we're going to have a minus sign. Then to find our first numbers over here, so if I want this number and this number, because they're always going to be the same as each other, the O just stands for of. So just to create a nice easy word. Okay. We're going to do the square root of a squared. So the square root of a squared gives me a. So I'm going to have an a here, and I'm going to have an a there. Okay. Then it's a different color so that you can see. Okay. For these two spots over here, we do the same thing. We do the square root of the second one. So the square root of b squared would give me b. So I'm going to have b and b. So when we do difference of two squares, this is what we'll end up getting as our answer. So when we do highest common factor, we do something a little bit different. And when we do difference of two squares, we do this. Your plus sign doesn't have to be first. You could have a minus and then a plus, but sometimes when the questions get a little bit tougher, it's helpful to have the plus sign first. I know that that doesn't make sense just yet, but you will see what I mean when we get there down the road. Yolanda, how can I help?
Ma'am, I want to know, how do we know that it's plus or minus at the first step?
It's always going to be a plus and then a minus. So that you're always going to have a plus in the one bracket and you're going to have a minus in the other bracket.
Okay, ma'am.
All the time. Okay. If you're feeling confused, don't panic. Just try and think of it as step by step. especially if you haven't seen this in class. I can imagine that it looks super scary, but it's actually not scary at all once you get going on them. It just seems scarier than it is. Okay, so I'm going to go through this one with you, and then I will give you the next one to try by yourselves. Now, the first thing, and I know you're going to get irritated with me saying this in this lesson, but it's because eventually you're going to have all different kinds of questions together that you have to factorize, and you have to know which type of thing you have to do. So am I going to do a highest common factor? Am I going to do difference of two squares? Am I going to do a trinomial? You need to know. So when you see a question, you need to think, can I take out a highest common factor? We always think that first. And then we think, can I do dots? Okay, so if I'm looking at this, I've got x squared and I've got minus 4. I definitely can't take out a highest common factor. Then I look at dots and I think, is there a difference? Is there a minus sign? Yes. Are there two numbers? Yes. Are both of my numbers squares? Yes. That means that I can do dots. Okay. That's how we sort of check to see if we can do it. And if you write dots next to the question, that's totally fine. So let's have a look. When we do difference of two squares, we have two brackets, always. Okay, so we're going to do our two brackets. We're going to do a plus, and we're going to do a minus. We're going to square root the first term. So the square root of x squared gives me x, and we're going to put that in both first place positions. Then we're going to say, what is the square root of 4? And that's 2. So I'm going to have 2 at the back of both of them. And that's it. Okay, so the question that's coming in here about the plus sign, sweetheart, you're confusing it with trinomials, which is a whole different type of factorization, which we haven't learned yet. So that is true for trinomials, but it's not for difference of two squares. Okay. All right, let me try and get through some of these questions. Hold on, let me just see what's happening in the chat. The signs are always the same, Nataba. We always have a plus sign and we have a minus sign every time. That doesn't change. For difference of two squares, it always, always, always will be 1 plus and 1 minus every time. Okay, Samkela Siwe, let's go. How can I help?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, it was the same answer, but I wrote it. My answer was x plus 2 bracket x minus 2. It is the same answer then.
Yes, that's exactly the same as what's on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Unati, how can I help?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask if this question would be 2 marks or only 1.
Most of the time it will just be 1 mark.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Kamogelo, how can I help?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
I wanted to ask if it will still be correct if I wrote x minus 2 into brackets, x plus 2 into brackets.
Totally fine. Not a problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So guys, that question was just if you wrote x minus 2 and then x plus 2, that's also totally fine. Not a problem at all. Tiana, how can I help?
Ma'am, I just want to like give a suggestion to like people who's like struggling with the signs. Like the way I understand it now, because the x to the power of 2 is positive and then the 4 is negative, then you just put that in. You just see the positive and the negative and you put your signs in the brackets. If it's a suggestion to
That's great, Tiana. If that helps anyone, you can definitely do it that way. So you can see you have a positive and a negative, so you have a positive and a negative. Okay. So those signs will be consistent. They're never going to change for difference of two squares. You will never have 2 positives. You will never have 2 negatives. You will always have 1 plus and 1 minus. Oh, I'm glad you're getting there. Okay. Remember, we don't panic. We do it step by step. Okay. So I'm not going to do this full one for you. I'm just going to start it. I'm going to do the brackets and I'm going to put in my signs and you're going to tell me what the rest is going to look like. You are going to fill this one in for me. Give it a try. Paul, how can I help?
Ma'am, you're going to say x plus -1.
Careful, careful. Just so don't worry about the sign at all. Just think, what's the square root of 1?
Square root of 1, ma'am. Let me see. Square root of 1 is 1.
Good. So we just write a 1.
Then
So
you say x,
X.
minus 1.
Yes, excellent, and Paul. Well done. Perfect. So don't let this minus sign confuse you. We can just ignore it once we've acknowledged that it's there and we know that we're dealing with difference of 2 squares. We can ignore it, and then we know we're going to have a plus and we're going to have a minus, and you can just do the square root of that one and the square root of that. You did beautifully though, Paul. That was great. Kamakelo, how can I help?
So, ma'am, I got x plus 1 into bracket, x minus 1 into bracket. Is it correct?
Yes, sweetheart, it's the same as what's on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Well
Okay.
done, Kamukela.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, let's try another one. I hope we're feeling a bit more confident. Okay, let's give this one a go. I'm leaving you in the dark for this one, guys. Just remember how to check for dots. Just keep that in your mind that you're checking for dots. Difference, difference. 2, 2, squares, squares. Kejo, how can I help?
Ma'am, may I please give the answer?
You're welcome to.
The answer is 2x plus 1 and 2x minus 1.
Excellent. Nice job, guys. Okay. I feel like we have come around a corner. Good work. Nice. Okay, the hands that are up, are those questions or are you wanting to answer? So just assess. If you are wanting to answer, you can take your hands down because it's been answered. If they're questions, you can keep them up. Okay. Cool. Fatu, how can I help? Okay. Oh, Kira, I'm so glad. Okay, so it's 2x because I'm square rooting this. So I'm saying, what's the square root of 4? That's 2. What's the square root of x squared? That's x. That's how I get the 2x. Because if I had 2x times 2x, I would get 4x squared, which means that the square root of it is 2x. Okay, let's try another one. Oh, sorry, Precious, yeah.
So, ma'am, when you ask him, don't you say when you type it on your calculator, don't you say it's 4 squared, or do you leave the squared with the x?
In this one here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so when you square rooting this, you square the whole thing together. But if you're thinking about it in pieces, I would say what's the square root of 4? And that's 2. And the square root of x squared would be x.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Okay. Next one. Ah, you guys are too fast for me. Okay, I'm going to put 2 up on the board. See if I'm going to get anyone here. They look the same, but they're not the same. Guys are zooming fast today. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was still trying to like do question D and I'm like, whoa, I'm in question the previous question and they're already done with D.
Done. Okay, guys, I'm going to put the answer up for D so long because I can see the answers streaming in the chat. And I'd like to save us some time here and then we can move into the trickier ones. My real question is, how do I do E? I'm very curious to hear how I would do E. So if people have suggestions, let me know. Unati, can you tell me how to do E?
Ma'am, do you swap the two terms around?
No,
Uh,
that was a good try. Some Kilisiwe, can you tell me how to do E?
Yeah.
Where'd you go? We lost you. That's so sad. Camilla, can you tell us how to do E?
Okay, so the square root of 9 is 3. So you put them both in the brackets.
No.
And then the, sorry?
No. No. I put a trap here for you guys. You gotta try and find my trap. I'm trapping you. You're being trapped. Tell me if you can tell me. Tando, can you tell me, how do I do E?
I think that we take the highest common factor is 3.
No, already wrong. Already wrong. Precious, can you tell me how to do E? Guys, you've all fallen for my trap. This is why I kept on writing it on the side. D-O-T-S, dots. What does the first letter stand for in dots? It stands for difference. Is a plus sign a difference? Is a plus sign a difference? No, a plus sign is a plus sign. It's not a difference, which means we can't do dots to this. We can't factorize it. There's nothing we can do. We have to leave it exactly the same as it is. We can't factorize. I was making a trap for you because I want you to always think about dots. Okay, we cannot do dots if there is a plus sign. We can only do dots if there is a minus sign. That is what the D stands for. That D is telling us difference. Okay, it's super important to just think about what you're working on here so that you always know what you're looking for, because teachers love to throw questions like this into tests because they know they confuse you. Because that's what we do. We like to confuse.
Oh, you're not alone. I was also like, what? Well done to everybody who tried.
Maths does have lots of rules, you're right. Okay, we are going to come back to those. I just want you to have a little bit of a brain break. I found this cool one. Where do you go? Oh, here we go. Some cool pictures, a little bit different to our normal ones. I would like to know what my answer to this question mark is. I know it is mean when teachers do that, but at least I'm telling you that your teachers will do it, so you know to look out for it, to be careful. This one is not as bad as it looks. You just have to read ahead, is my advice. Exactly. 87, no. I mean, it's a little bit nastier. Comes Kelesiwe, can you tell me what the answer is?
Ma'am?
Yeah?
Hello, ma'am?
I'm here.
Ma'am, are we doing the one for 48?
The answer is not 48.
No, ma'am. For 48 is 20 plus 20 plus 8.
But it's not right. Sorry. Tiana?
Ma'am, is the answer 36?
Yes, the answer is 36. Nice job. Yes. Well done. Can you tell me which line was the line that helped you the most that I think people didn't see?
No, I didn't do anything anyway. I just never counted anything. The thing is, what I did, I saw 48 and then I was like, 12 plus 12 is like 24. So the stock suit has to be like 24. So
goodness,
the
you
thing
just
was like 12. And then
You
I
just
skipped everything else and I saw
cheated your way through.
the lemon and the ring is 0. So it has nothing to do with anything. So the stock sweet was most 24. So 24 plus 12 equals 36.
So sneaky. So sneaky. Guys, the key to this one was to see that the bear and the lolly were the same as each other. That was the key. Because that means that these three are all the same as each other, which means that they are all 16. That was the key. And then this bear would be 16. And so 16 divided by 4 gives me 4, which means that this is 4. So that has to be 0. And so we have 0 plus 16 plus 4 plus 16. So none of the logic that Tiana used over there, but her answer was right. Our answer was 36. Okay, let's try and I'm going to give you one nice easy difference of 2 squares again, and then I'm going to show you something a little bit trickier. Okay, so quickly do this one for me. You don't need to worry about putting your hands up to answer this one. You can just give it to me in the chat and I'll just quickly put it on the board, and then we're going to look at how we can sort of make these a little bit trickier. So as soon as you've got an answer for this one, just chuck it in the chat for me. Kamakelo, if it's to answer the question, you can put your hand down. I'm going to go through this one. If it's to ask a question, then you can leave your hand. There we go. I thought so. Fatu, I like it. I like it a lot. Yes, Jordan. Nice. Yes. We are getting this, guys. Awesome. Okay, so we know it's difference of 2 squares. So we're going to have a plus, we're going to have a minus. I did not leave enough space for myself. Okay. We're going to have a plus, we're going to have a minus. Square root of a squared b to the 4 is ab squared. Ab squared. Square root of 1 is 1, 1. Done. Nice job, guys. Nice job. Okay, let's try and make them a bit trickier now, because that's when they start getting more fun. Okay. Okay, so let's look at this question over here. I want you to think about what ooh, the question disappeared in front of my eyes. Okay, I want you to think about something I spoke about right at the beginning, about how we have the different types of factorizing, and how the first thing we always have to look at is there a highest common factor? We always have to look at that first, and then we can say, is there a difference of 2 squares situation? Okay, so if we're looking at this question over here, is there a highest common factor? And if there is a highest common factor, what is that highest common factor? So have a look at this. Let me know in the chat, what is our highest common factor here? Yes, Shamika. Yes. Roma. Nice. Yes. 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 Okay. Our highest common factor here is 2. So now we're going to do what we learned on Tuesday. We're going to take out that highest common factor. So we're going to take it out, and I'm going to be left with 4a squared minus 1. Remember, if you're wanting to, you can always multiply this in. So that would be 8a squared. That would be -2. So then you know that you're right. Okay, cool. So we've taken out our highest common factor. Now, if I'm looking at this bracket over here, I'm asking, can I do difference of 2 squares? Well, I don't know. Let's assess. D, difference. Yes. 2. Yes, there are 2 terms. Squares. Yes, they are both square numbers. I can definitely do difference of 2 squares. Okay, so now we're going to take this one step further. So we're going to keep this 2 because nothing happens to him. And we're going to do difference of two squares on that bracket. So I'm going to have a plus and a minus. Okay, I'm going to square root my first term. And I'm going to get 2a, 2a. I'm going to square root my second term. And I'm going to get 1 and 1. And that would be my final answer. And for a question like this, you would get 2 marks, 1 for taking out the highest common factor, and 1 for doing the difference of two squares. Okay, and Nam, how can I help?
Ma'am, in a test, would they be like factorize? In like a test, would they be like use HCF and dots, or they just say factorize?
It will just say factorize. So it will just say this. That's all it will say. You have to know what to do.
Okay.
Okay, but that's why whenever we do factorizing, the first thing we look at is, can we take out our highest common factor? That's always the first place we start. Okay, Tiana, question, how can I help? Okay, got it. Yeah,
Ma'am?
hello, yeah.
How much marks are we gonna get for this question?
I've just said this, Tiana. 2. 1, 2.
It's so much brain for only 2 marks.
Yeah, but that's just how maths works.
Nee, that's not right.
It's so much brain.
I know. Camila, can I help? Do you have a question?
Ma'am, when do you know when to use these methods? How do we know when to use these methods?
So whenever you get a factorization question, we're going to learn a third one eventually. So when you start learning about them, the first thing you always look for is there a highest common factor? If there isn't a highest common factor, then you say, can I do difference of two squares? If you can't do difference of two squares, we're soon going to learn about something called trinomials, and then you can do that. But this is like the hierarchy order. So you start at the top and you work your way down to see which one you can do. Sometimes you can do more than one, and sometimes you can only do one. And learning about which one it is just takes a bit of practice, but you'll get there.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. And Paul, how can I help?
Ma'am, what does O stands for in dots?
It stands for of. So difference of two squares.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. This one, give it a go now. You can do it. You'll be fine. Onati, is his hand up already with an answer?
Yes, ma'am. I'm ready. I have an answer.
You are so fast.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me what my first line will look like.
Ma'am, it will be 2 open bracket 9x squared minus 1.
Beautiful. What's my second bracket going to look like?
2 open bracket 3x plus 1 close bracket open bracket again 3x minus 1.
Excellent. Yes. Nice job. Oh, no spoilers.
Woo,
sorry.
Well done.
I'm sorry. I didn't give you guys enough time. I was just so excited because Nati had done it so quickly, but I promise I'll give more time for the next one. Nice job. Okay. So here we were able to see that this is also a dot situation, which gave me those two brackets over there. So my first step was highest common factor and my second step was dots. Okay. Let's look at the next one. I'm very curious to see who I can trick with this one. I'll try and leave both up on the screen in case anyone's still busy. So this next one that I'm looking at is a to the power of 4 minus 1. I would like you to try this question. I'm going to tell you that there's 2 steps, but I'm not going to tell you what those steps are. And once you have answers, you're welcome to put them in the chat. But let's see how people do.
I believe in you guys. Let's do this. We
I
can
think you will
do
be
this.
100% fine. You just gotta think a bit outside the box.
Wow.
I have one. Oh no, you definitely are going to have two. Katero, be careful. Be careful. What does the D stand for in different? Oh, what does D stand for in difference? What does the D stand for in dots? I know, Nati. I know you have it on. It's my little brain buff. I'm just trying to give people some time. You can't have one step. It's definitely two steps. And you would get a mark for each step. Offensive, I can't take A out of one because it's not common. Okay, let me take you guys out of your misery. I know that people have the answers and I know that you wanting to answer. I'm just going to go through this one with everyone because it's something new. Okay. Okay, so we have a to the power of 4 minus 1. So we can definitely do dots, which is going to leave us with a squared plus 1, a squared minus 1. Okay, that's my first step. So hopefully everyone was able to get to the first step, which is great. Then I'm going to look at this first bracket. Now the first bracket, I've got two terms. They're both squares, but this is a plus sign. And because that's a plus sign, I can't do dots. So I look at my second bracket. They're two terms, they're both squares, and I have a minus sign, which means I can do dots. So I keep my first bracket exactly the same. And then I do difference of two squares with my second bracket. So I have a plus 1, a minus 1. That's what my second bracket turns into. 1, 2. And this is technically why we do our plus sign first and then our minus sign, because sometimes we can do dots again. And so then it's easier to have the plus sign in the first bracket. That's really the only reason we do the plus sign first. But this is just an example of where we can do multiple steps for a difference of two squares question. I see I tricked some of you, but some of you got to the right answer. And I'm hoping that some of you who didn't get to the right answer can see now what you would have done. Hopefully. Nice, Fancy. I'm so glad. Velena, grade 1 maths was a long time ago. It was a long, long time ago. So the extra two brackets came because D, difference, T, 2, squares, they're both squares, which means I can do dots from that bracket. So that bracket became these two brackets because I was doing difference of two squares. Exactly, you did dots twice. You did dots here, and then you did dots again here, but we could only do dots on the one bracket here. Come on, Kayla, do you have a question?
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Why do you have to write a squared plus 1, a plus 1 into brackets, a minus 1 into brackets?
So why is this the answer? Is that what you're asking?
Excuse me?
Are you asking why is this the answer?
Yes.
Okay. So this a squared plus 1, there's nothing I can do to it. There's nothing further I can do. And so it just stays the same. It stays what it is. But in this bracket over here, I can do difference of two squares because I've got two square numbers and there's a minus sign. And so because I can do difference of two squares, I do it. And then that one bracket becomes these two brackets over here because I did dots again. So Velenda, that sort of answers your question as well. That's why we did do dots. If you can do dots, you do dots. Basically, we factorize until we can't factorize anymore. Okay, let's try one more and then I'm going to leave you because it's your quiz day. Let's try this one. So think about your steps. 1, is there a highest common factor? 2, can I do dots?
This one looks fun, guys. Let's do this. Let's do it. Sorry, teacher Jen, have they done exponents? Someone is, Kinsani is asking me about exponents. So have they done exponents? So I can refer her to the previous session, or you haven't done exponents?
We worked a little bit with exponents in our very first course of the year when we were talking, or our second course of the year after numbers. We did some things with exponents.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This was 2 steps, guys. Okay. I'm going to go through them now with you, and then I'm going to leave you for your quiz. So our highest common factor here was 25. So I'm going to take my 25 out, and I'm left with a squared minus 4, because 4 times 25 gives me 100. And then I'm going to do my difference of 2 squares. So I have 25, a plus 2, a minus 2. So the only thing that happened that I think people got a bit confused was they have the wrong number over here. But that is how this question looks. So we have now gone through highest common factor. We've done difference of 2 squares. And in our lesson on Tuesday, we're going to do some more questions where we're going to combine them like this. And we're also going to bring in something called the switcheroo. We're going to talk about that on Tuesday, which is going to be fun. But I'm hoping that if you came into this lesson feeling quite confused, I'm hoping that by the end of this lesson, you are feeling a little bit less confused. That is my hope as always. And on that glorious note, I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands of Yolanda, and she's going to talk you through how to do the quiz this evening. And I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I will see you all on Tuesday.